Alright, welcome back to MrJayDM. And yes, I have merchandise now, but I am not going to be offering it just yet because we'll talk about that in a whole nother video. But we are going to tackle the wiring on the Civic hatch. We have to convert multi-point to dual point, and then we have ODB1, ODB, oh dirty bastards, OBD1 conversion as well. And then on top of that, we are getting rid of the injector resistor box. And normally you would use OBD1 wiring harness, the injector section of the wiring harness for that, but I can't find anything 92 through 95 Honda Civic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use OBD2 injectors. That way we can get rid of the resistor box, and plus if later down the road he wants to upgrade the injectors, then it shouldn't be a problem. The EK injectors do not require a resistor box, so you know that's the next best thing. I would rather use ODB1, OBD1, but it's, you know, it is what it is. It's going to be fine, it'll work, and it seems to be what most people are using these days, because 92 through 95 Civic engine harnesses are super hard to find, and when you do find them, people want a premium for them. They want like 250 bucks for them, when for 300 bucks you can get a Monotech, you know, harness that's all brand new. So it doesn't make sense to me, people and their ridiculous prices, but you know, it is what it is. I'm all about people making money, but you know, there's a limit. I mean, there's a limit. So right here we have the harness that was originally in the CRX, that was on the B16A3, and that harness is the dual point fuel injection harness from the Civic hatch. So what we need to do is we need to start stripping this down, because we're going to pull out quite a few plugs from that. We're going to patch in the fuel injectors from the EK. Another thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and upgrade the connectors with the OBD1 distributor plugs. So I'm basically going to cut these off, or depin these, and then depin these and then pin them into these plugs. That way there's no adapter. It makes it a lot cleaner. And you know, these adapters for some reason have problems at times. Wires start pulling out and whatnot. That way we can just eliminate all of that, and we'll have these plugs directly on the harness. So I'm going to start stripping this down. I'm not going to record it just because, you know, I'm literally taking tape off and pulling the loom off of it. But I am going to keep each, like let's say this is the trunk and then these are branches. I'm going to keep all those in line with how they're supposed to be, because most of the connectors are in the right location, with the exception of a couple. Alright, so we got the dual point harness all pulled apart, except for like the tape, but we're going to keep that because we want to keep the limbs where they're supposed to be. Some of these wires will be removed, like this one. It's like, I can't remember what it's called, the tandem sensor or something, I don't know. And then you got your two fuel injectors for the dual point. That will all be pulled out completely. And normally at this point, what I would do is I would pull this clip off of the SI harness and start depinning these and transferring them over to this one, because it's color for color. You're gonna have two extra wires right here, and that's because of the crank or the cam positioning sensor is built into the distributor on the SI. And this wire, these two blue wires go into this big one. And then they come out all the way here on the passenger side shock tower plug. Normally I would pull that entire piece out because we are going to need those two wires, but because I am eliminating the OBD1 adapter on the distributor, I'm just going to pin everything directly into this, and there will be no need to cut up the SI harness, even though that SI harness is, I mean, it's in terrible shape, but there's no need to cut that up. And I do want to go to the junkyard and probably pull distributor plug and the two extra wires that I'm going to need that I would normally pull from here, these two that go to the distributor wires, and that way I can have a clean pin in and pin out. Alright, now the other distributor plug will just transfer directly over to this one as well. I'll just depin it from here and pin it into this connector because the connections are all the same. Alright, so this plug, in order to depin it, you have to remove this plastic piece right here from the bottom. It's really quite simple. It has these little nubs that stick out on the corners that stick into there. So you just shove something up in there and you can pry it out. Now to depin the top, the wire itself, I have these depin tools and I used this one. I would stuck this side straight down into there. And then I would push forward, push down and push forward, and it will allow the wire to come out. Very simple. Alright, now because this one has these little round rubber pieces that slide into the bottom of it, but this connector has the single round rubber piece, that's not going to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off and I'm going to squirt silicone down into there, and then I'll put this piece back onto here, and then when it all dries it should be pretty good to go. But that was pretty much a direct swap directly into there. It's going to be the same process on this plug. I'll just depin one at a time and put them in the right location over here. Alright, so to depin this connector, again I have these depin tools. Take this long skinny one and you stick it right in front of the connector. And it will just pull right out. Well, it should. There we go. So I'm gonna depin all of these, and then once I'm done, then we'll pin them all into the other connector. Alright, we got all of our wires depinned. The white and blue, we have the white, we have the orange and blue, and then just a plain orange. And then we have a white one that's a little bit thicker than this white one. and plus it's separated from the harness. It's not in this sleeve. Now over here with this connector, we would normally just depin this one and everything would go right into the same color. It's all the same color, everything's the same. The only two we don't have on the dual point harness would be the two blue ones. These two are for the crank or the cam positioning sensor, because the SI distributor has a cam positioning sensor built into the distributor. The dual point does not. So what we got to do is, this right here is the adapter for the OBD1 or 0 to 1, and obviously the wires are not the same color, so we need to figure out which wires from here go into here and then where they go into this clip. So we're going to figure out one at a time, depin each one at a time, and then pin these into it one at a time. So for example, our bigger white wire goes into the top, and that one would be the red one, and then it goes over here in the side. I guess we'll call that number 1. So we're going to depin this one, and then with this harness we'll pin this one into that location, and we'll do that with each one of them. And then we'll have this connector on the harness directly, and we won't need an adapter. Alright, and to depin this plug, you pull out this little white piece. It just pops right out with like a small flathead screwdriver. And then again, you take your little small depinning tool and you stick it right below at the bottom there. Just pop it in, and there we go. Now it's out. And now we take our thick wire that's not in the sleeve, and we're going to pin it into that spot. Get in there. I think the little rubber piece is bigger than what's on here, so you gotta cram it in there. It's pretty tight, but we can get it done. Alright, and there we go. So now we're gonna depin the rest of them, and when I'm done, we'll be right back. Alright, so we got everything pinned in there except for these two wires, and these are the two blue wires that we're missing, because again, it's the the cam position sensor. On this plug, it'll be these two. Now normally what I would do is I would pull this entire wire all the way to the end, which would be over here, and I would depin them from here. But I want to save this harness, even though it's kind of trashed, but it's worth something. It is an SI fully intact harness. I think there are a couple things that are missing, or there's at least one thing that's missing. It's got a wire right here that's broke off, and some of the connectors are just pretty bad. I mean, let me find one. Yeah, it's got like right here, if it would focus, that's not looking good. And also there's a connector here that's been cut, so it's a partially or mostly intact SI harness, but I want to save it because, you know, these things are getting harder to find and I don't want to destroy it. So what we'll do is we'll get some wires from the junkyard or my collection of wires, and we will pin them in here, And the other ends, we'll talk about that once we get to that point. We're using this plug because we have the 2 wires for the injectors and then the 2 extra wires on the distributor, which are here. And we're going to use this one to extend all the way over to the passenger side shock tower. We're going to plug the 2 injector wires into here and the 2 wires from the distributor into here. You only need like a 4 plug, but this is a 6 plug. It's what I have, and it will work. Once we're done doing this, we'll make the harness that goes from the ECU into this plug, and then these will plug together. Alright, now let's get the 2 wires for our distributor plug and get those extended up to here. We're going to use this wire I pulled from another harness. That way we can just depin what's in there and use these. And then on the other end, it's already pinned, so we can depin this and then put these directly in there. The less soldering, the less tape is better. Now, because we're doing ODB1 distributor, we took the adapter that would normally plug into your normal ODB0 plugs, and we depinned it all to pin it all into the harness directly. That way there is no adapter wire. And then we had 2 extra wires that the ODB1 requires, and we pinned those in here. We extended them all the way over here to the passenger side. Now these 4 wires, the 2 injectors and then the 2 distributor wires, those will go into this. That way we have a connector that connects to this, and these wires that stick out here will go to the ECU, the 2 injectors and the 2 distributor wires. So I'm going to go ahead and clip this right here and solder 2 of these wires here and pin these into here. Alright, now we got these soldered on there. We're going to clip them in here, and it doesn't matter where you put them as long as you remember where you put them. That's the only determining factor. So I'm going to clip like the 2 injectors right there, and then the next 2 will be the distributor. Alright, and that is done. Alright, so I'm going to end this video here. This video is basically just the distributor wiring from the dual point to a multi-point with OBD1 distributor plugs. This way we eliminate the entire adapter, and the OBD1 distributor plugs are directly on the wiring harness. I hope I included all the details. If you have any questions, please join the MrJayDM Facebook group. I will answer all your questions there. It's really hard to answer questions in the comments of videos, so please just join the group and I'll help you out any way I possibly can. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next video.